Hey, everybody out there in podcast land. This is your host of Buy Black Podcast, Gerald Jones, and I wanted to come to you guys today with a little bit of bonus content. Now, understand, if you're listening to this, the reason you can hear it is because you have downloaded the app on Android or on iPhone. This content is not going out to all the databases. It is just for you. So if anybody else wants to get their ears on it, you need to direct them to download the app. Tonight's episode is going to be really short. It actually just came from a conversation I had on Facebook either a little bit earlier this week or last week that really disturbed me. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was talking about how people make bad decisions with their tax refund money, and instead of going out and blowing it on whatever they're blowing it on, they should put it in a CD. Now, she also said, or an IRA. An IRA is not bad, but you don't get to touch that money for, 30 years. So, sure, have at it. Not my favorite idea for investment, but the CD part really hurt my soul because putting money in a CD is a horrible, horrible idea if your intent is to try to build any type of wealth. And that's one of the weird lies that we've told each other and that we've been told in the Black community is that, the best way for you to save money is to put it in a CD. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about why you do not need to put your tax refund into a CD or any money into a CD for that matter. There are so many better ways for you to invest your money than to sit it in a spot in a CD where you're actually losing money. So that's really what we're going to go over. I'm going to talk about what a CD is. I'm going to talk about the whole reason that banks offer them, why they exist. And then I'm going to talk about all the reasons why it is a bad place to put your money. So if you have the time, grab a pen and paper and do the math with me. If not, hey, just bookmark this thing, come back to it later, and you will see also that this is a really, really bad idea. All right, so I'm going to jump right into it. So the first thing, a CD, we heard the terminology. CD stands for Certificate of Deposit. That is what a CD is. And when you get a CD from the bank, you are basically lending your money to the bank. Why would a bank want you to lend your money to them? So that they can turn around and lend that money to other people and make money off of your money. That's exactly what they're doing. So when you get a CD with a bank, they basically say, you're going to let us hold on to your money for a specific period of time. And if you give us this money that we can lend out to other people, and you let us hold it for a period of 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever that may be, without touching it, then at the end of that time, we will give you your money back plus interest on the time that you let us borrow it to lend out to other people. So just think about that for a second. A bank is borrowing money from you at a certain interest rate, and then it's lending it out to other people at a certain interest rate. And over that time, the bank is making money off of your money, and at the end of it, they give you your money back plus a little bit of interest. Now, do you think that they are giving you as much interest as they are getting from other people? Obviously not. Because banks are in business to make money. You're basically giving them your money so that they can make money. And all the while, you're losing money. Now you might think, how can I be losing money? They give me my money back and I get interest at the end of it. How is that losing money? I'll explain to you how that is that you are losing money by putting your money into a CD. All right, so let's go right into that. First of all, looking at a CD and the absolute best rates that are out right now. So I looked these up, and you may be able to find some one-off CD offered that is a higher rate than these, but probably not. So looking at the best rates that are out right now, you can get a 1 year CD at a really good rate at about 1.8%. I've seen a 3 year CD that's right at about 2%. And I've seen 5 year CDs that get up to 2.5%. APR. That is your annual percentage rate. Now, that might sound pretty good, especially compared to a lot of savings accounts where you get 0.2% or something like that. But in the real world, that money is not very good, because I want you to compare that rate with the inflation rate. Now, the inflation rate is the rate at which the prices of the things that we have to buy increase. So the inflation rate basically tells you how much more money you would have to have at the end of the year to buy the same stuff that you were buying at the beginning of the year. At the end of 2017, the average inflation rate for that year was 2.13%. So that's what we're going to go with. We're going to say the current inflation rate in the United States is 2.13%. That means that after a year, any money that you had on day 1, January 1st, you would need to have 2.13% more money than that in order to buy the same stuff that you could buy on January 1st when it's the end of the year on December 31st. Right? So if you compare that to a CD, let's just say you buy a 1-year CD and you're getting that incredible CD rate of 1.8% APR. And you put your money in the bank and it sits there for a year. And at the end of the year, you get your money back plus 1.8%. And you take that money out and you're real excited because you saved all that money all year long, and you go out to spend it. And the money you have now doesn't buy as much as it did at the beginning of the year. Now, this ties into another concept that I'm not going to get into, which is called the time value of money. I'm not going to talk about TVM right now, but just understand that it is a concept that exists dealing with how much more valuable money in your hand is today than money that you'll get at a future date. Having money today is always more valuable than getting money down the line, right? It's basically the time value of money. There's a whole lot more that goes into it, the calculations, but that's basically it. A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. That's really what TVM comes down to. But in this case, you're looking at your CD rate. I'm going to put real numbers in this, right? A lot of CDs, they have a minimum deposit of like $500, right? A lot of your higher yield CDs, they take minimum deposits of $1,000, $5,000, and to get the highest rates available, anywhere up to $25,000 and higher, right? We're not all walking around with that kind of money. So I'm not going to play with that much money. I'm going to play with the kind of money we might be walking around with real quick. So let's just say you got $1,000, right? You get $1,000 back on your tax refund and you're wondering what to do with it. The new iPhone 10 is out, but it kind of stinks. So you don't want to do that. Instead, you decide I'm going to put my money into a CD. All right. So let's take your $1,000. And I'm writing right now. That's why it's a little bit of silence. We'll take your $1,000. We're going to put it into a 1-year CD with the best bank out there that's going to offer us, let's call it 2%, right? I told you earlier 1.8 was the highest. I saw one that was at 2%, right? It was an anomaly. It was an online bank. It doesn't have ATMs or any of that stuff, but it's out there, right? So let's call it 2%. So you put your $1,000 in the bank into a CD, and then at the end of that year, you get a 2% return on your money. So you take your $1,000 and you multiply it by 1.02, right? Because that's 100% of your money plus 0.02, which is 2%. So we take 1,000 times 1.02 and we get $1,020. That's what you got at the end of the year. So you go back to the bank, you close out your CD, they hand you $1,020. That's what you made on your 1 year of not touching your money, a $20 return. Now, we talked about the inflation rate being at 2.13%. So that means that the $1,000 you had at the beginning of the year in order for it to buy the same amount of stuff, when you get it back, you would need to have 1,000 times 1.0213, which is $1,021.30. So for all of your thriftiness and the foresight to put your money into a CD rather than going out and spending it on something, you made a total of negative $1.30 on the year. That's what a great CD is going to get you. That's a CD that nobody's offering right now. If we actually talked about it in a CD that is normally being offered, and again, this is still a high yield CD at 1.8%, we take your $1,000 times 1.018, and you get $1,018. So you just lost $2 more on the year, which means that instead of being down $1.30, you're down $3.30, right? And notice how small these margins are. We're talking about $1,000, right? $1,000 is nothing to sneeze at, especially for most of us. $1,000 is a lot of money, and yet we're going to put that $1,000 aside for an entire year, so that at the end of it, we could come up on an extra $20, if that, right? And even that, I could go out tomorrow and make $20, right? I could go out tomorrow and rake somebody's yard and make $20, but I'm going to put $1,000 in the bank so that at the end of the year, I get an extra $20. No, it doesn't make any sense. And especially when you understand inflation, I'm losing money, right? So I was having this conversation with a friend, and what she brought up was, well, you got to understand compound interest. You're not accounting for compound interest. See, that money is going to compound and the interest is going to compound. And so, that original principle that you put in, every time that interest compounds, you're going to be making even more money on the interest, and you're not accounting for that. This is what she said to me. And folks, let me let you know something about these CDs. CDs compound annually. And what does that mean? All right, well, let's back up. Let's talk about what compound interest is. All right, because there are different types of loans, there's different types of investments, there's different ways that interest is accrued in either a loan, which would be debt, or in an investment, which would be, savings. When you're talking about a loan or an investment that compounds interest, you have to know how often the interest is compounded to find out what benefit you are going to get from compounding the interest. Because compound interest means that whatever that interest rate is that you've signed up for, that interest is going to compound periodically. Typically, it could be daily, monthly, quarterly, biannually, or annually. That's usually what you're going to see, right? Every day, every month, every 3 months, every 6 months, or every year. Now, one of the things you'll normally see with banks is on their loans, on the things where they're making money off of you, those are usually going to compound either monthly or maybe even daily, right? Because they want that money to compound that you owe them more often. But on a lot of things where you're lending your money to the bank, it's going to compound less often, which means that you're going to get paid interest on your principal less often, which gives you less money that's going to be able to compound. Now, let me break that out and explain what that means. Now, let's just say that you started out with your $1,000, right? And now that $1,000 you put into a CD, let's just say it was a CD that compounds monthly. All right, so if we take a look at that 2% that I'm going to get per year, right? That's my annual percentage rate. Well, if that is compounded monthly, that means it has to be broken down into 12 equal parts of that 2%. So if I take 2%, which is 0.02, and then I multiply that, I divide that 0.02 divided by 12, that gives me 0.00166666, right? And so I would then take my $1,000 and I would say 1.00166666 times 1,000 equals $1,001.66. That's what I've got at the end of the first month. Well, on the second month, we're going to compound my interest again. So now I would take my $1,001.66 and I would multiply that again times 1.0016666666. And so at the end of the second month, I have $1,003.36 or 33 cents. All right, so I take my 1,003.33 and I multiply that by 1.00166666. At the end of the fourth month, I've got $1,005. Now, for the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. I'm going to work this whole thing out to the 12th month to show you how much money you would have on that same 2% interest if your money is compounded monthly as opposed to annually. So let's pause the recording on that. All right, guys, I'm back. And so I calculated everything out. So if you take that same interest rate, all right, that 2% interest rate on your 1-year CD, and it is compounded monthly as opposed to annually, what you would end up with is $1,020.18. That is right, compound interest on your 1-year 2% CD that is compounded monthly would be an additional 18 cents, right? An additional 18 cents. Meanwhile, remember that just looking at the current inflation rate after 1 year, you would need an additional $1.30 on top of your interest rate in order for you to be able to even match inflation. So when we're talking about CDs, compound interest does not mean anything at all. Even worse than that, CDs are not compounded monthly. They're usually compounded annually, which means if you have a 1-year CD, your money is only going to accrue interest one time at the very end of that CD. If there's any reason that you had to get to your money before that and you broke the contract that you had with the bank to let them hold your money that whole year, you're not getting anything back. You're just going to get your money, your principal, and you're not going to actually accrue any interest because it only accrues once a year. All right. So that in and of itself is the reason that a CD is a very bad place for you to put your money if you want it to make you money. You're not saving anything by putting money into a certificate of deposit. And I'll go one better. And you might say, well, that's all well and good, but what if I had more money? And what if I got a longer term CD? Because I told you earlier, a 5-year CD gets 2.5% interest. So that is higher than the 2.13% that our current inflation rate is. So you would probably make money on that, right? But when you look at the average long-term inflation rate in the United States over the last 100 years, the average inflation rate for the U.S. is 3.22%. That's why they're willing to offer a higher rate over the longer term. You're still not going to make any money. And even if the inflation rate stays low, it never goes above 2.5. And over that 5-year period, you sit your money still And then after that time, you get your 2.5% back on your 5-year investment. And let's even say that you had a lot of money put in there. Let's say you had $25,000 to put into your 5-year CD, and it compounds annually at 2.5%. You guys hold on for me. I'm going to press pause. I'm going to come back, and I will tell you just how much money you would make on your $25,000 over 5 years sitting it in a CD. All right, guys, we are back. And so I calculated that up for you. If you had $25,000 to put into a CD for 5 years and you were getting 2.5%, which is an incredible rate on a CD, after 5 years, you would make $3,285.21. So you would come out with a total of $28,285.21. $28,285.21. Now, let's take a look at what the inflation rate would be. And again, we're going to use the current inflation rate. We're not going to worry about the average over the long term. We're just going to assume that inflation never goes higher than 2.13% over that time, right? So let's see how much money you would need after that 5 years in order to be able to continue spending money the way that you did. Pause for me. All right, we are back. And so for inflation adjustment at 2.13%, after 5 years, you would need $27,778.36 in order to buy what you could have bought 5 years ago for $25,000. So what that means is that the $28,285.21 that you get out of your CD after that 5 years only really shows you a $506.85 gain, right? And that is assuming, best case scenario, the inflation rate doesn't go up, doesn't go down, and you got this incredible CD interest rate at 2.5%. You made $506.85 over 5 years. Tell me, anybody, how that is a good investment, how that is a good way for you to spend your money. Imagine what $25,000 could do for you, for your business over 5 years if you had it in your hand rather than sitting it inside of a CD where the bank is taking your money and they're lending it to people at 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 times the rate that they're giving you. They are making money hand over foot on your money. It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm not going to go into any of the other potential investments, places that you could put your money tonight, because on this one, I just wanted to talk about CDs. I remember when I was a kid, I was told about CDs and how this is a smart place to put your money. This is a smart place to learn how to save. This is a smart place to do all these things. And then when I got older and I learned how money actually works, I was like, this is not a good idea. It's not very smart. Now, if you're trying to teach a kid, how to not just spend every dollar that comes in, then sure, if you want to teach them about delayed gratification, or if you want to teach them just how to not let money burn a hole in their pocket, then sure, put a kid's money into a CD and let them get that basically no additional gain after a year or after 2 years, because they're seeing that you don't have to spend money as soon as you get it today. So for that purpose, for teaching the lesson of understanding delayed gratification, then sure, teach your kid that lesson, but don't teach them that putting money in a CD is a good investment, that it's ever going to make them wealthy, because people don't get wealthy through savings accounts. It just doesn't happen. Wealthy people get wealthy through profits. And the only way that you can get profits is if you have that is correct, you got to have a business. So when I come out with the next episode this coming Monday, I'm going to go into why it is that owning a business is one of the lowest risk, highest return investment opportunities out there. And if you are right here in this tax season, you're getting that big refund check back and you're wondering, where should I put it? What should I do with it that's going to help me grow and build wealth? One of the first options should be, maybe I should start a business. And we're going to talk about that on the episode number 27 that's coming up this next Monday. But until then, hey, thanks for walking through this with me tonight, guys. If you have any questions about everything that I talked about tonight, if you have questions about the math and how I came up with that, email me, reach out to me over the phone. You guys all have the app, which means you can go to that contact tab and you can get my cell phone number, or you can get my email directly from there. Just reach out to me. We'll talk about it. Or join the Buy Black podcast community if you aren't in there already, and just drop a post on the wall asking more about how these numbers work. And we can have a great conversation about interest and simple interest and compound interest and CDs and all these other things, right? Because we're a bunch of nerds. Maybe y'all aren't, but I'm a nerd and I love talking about stuff like that. So connect with me. We'll talk about it more. But until then, hey, I will catch you on this coming Monday. All right, I'm out.